Welcome to one of the first videos from D-Best Adventures that's not on the adventure. Today we're going to talk about some stoves that I've been using for years in the backcountry, and they work great. They're tried and true. Remember, propane, there's multiple sizes of propane people have been using for years. There's the small canisters, butane. They use the micro stove. It's great. The stove's micro, but you're stuck with the canisters. I find them, they take up quite a bit of space. They don't last very long. You gotta manage them quite heavily when you're on your adventures. So these are my two favorite go-tos. This one, MSR Whisper Lite, I have had use for over 15, maybe pushing 20 years. The second one I've had, I lost one. This stove, easy to set up. This is all it contains right here, and packed away, plus the fuel canister. Boil water quite quickly, one pan at a time. Tried and true, tested. They work great. They use white naphtha fuel. Not very common today, sometimes hard to find. But best part of this stove is it's a multi-fuel stove. You can run almost any fuel. I've tested it. It doesn't work as clean and efficiently as naphtha, but you can use gasoline, diesel, kerosene, any liquid that can go into this bottle so you can pressurize it. Works by vaporizing the fuel through this little tube. It's a little more set up and a little more dangerous. In not used properly, you can start quite a little flare up right in front of you. You have to know how to use the stove, and don't take it out into the backcountry the first time unused and expect to learn how to use it properly. Here's my second favorite. It's quite gadgety. It's electric. It's got a lot of features, but the fuel sources can be found anywhere outside. You can use pellets, stoves, my favorite, just branches to find out, cut up. You can prepare some fuels to go. BioLite uses pellets. You buy their pellets or stove pellets, which are great. I've used them in the past, but truly I like the stove because its fuel can be scavenged on site where you are. Don't have to rely on source fuel. And it's electric. Uses a thermo generator, and it generates electricity. You can charge your devices with this. Also, I thought it was kind of gimmicky, but never been in the backcountry trying to cook at nighttime. Yeah, a headlamp or a lantern nearby is great, but this plugs into the stove itself, and a great feature. You get the full kit, comes with the pot. This also doubles as a French press. One of my favorite little gimmicky, not gimmicky things, because it actually works. Had this tool for years. I had to warranty one. My fault. I used charcoal as the fuel source. Charcoal gets way too hot, so I have learned to just manage my own fuel. Anything you can get your hands on for wood, as long as it's dry, you can make yourself a fire. Works best with their pot set. They vent, but you can just simply set a normal pot right on there. Nice stable base, a little more stable than a Whisper Lite. Other favorite feature is the grill. In this video, yeah, not sponsored. I'm just real world. Both of these stoves have been tested in the backcountry for years, truly. And here's the little grill. It sits on top, quite simple. It's got a nice carrying case because grilling stuff is quite messy. So with this cover, you're in business. Set up comfortably. This can cook for 3 people. Best for 2, single. This one, 2 people max. It's hard to cook for anything more with that little stove, but for backcountry, day trips, time spent, these 2 tools are great. We'll get them lit here, and this is the first time I'm trying a little bit of a longer form content. I've been spent years, was in scouting for years, and my whole life's been spent outside adventuring. So I have a wealth of experience to share. So here we are. Let's let the BioLite. Got some water too. We'll do like a boil off here once both these stoves are going. We'll set them up and go. with equal amount of water and see who can boil water faster. This one, a little more prep to get lit. You have to have quite amount of kindling, and sometimes fire lighter works great. I didn't have any on hand today, so I made myself like a little feather stick, and we'll get her lit here. See if I can use it without any starting aid. But we're gonna go right to starting aid. I got a little bit of a breeze here, so we've got the naphtha from our white gas. We'll just give ourselves, you gotta be very mindful. This can start quite the fire. There we are. Get a little flame, and we have to turn it on. You hear the motor start spinning up. There's the thermistor that helps generate the heat for the reaction to happen so that the stove can generate its own electricity. You're not physically having to charge this unless you used it as the battery bank it can be to charge your device, your inReach, or your cell phone when you're out and about, because it does have, I think, a 3000 milliamp, like it's self-sustained. And I've used these during fire bans. They're low smoke, especially if you use the pellets, so it's about as much smoke as long as you keep it efficiently lit. We're hearing the crackle start, so we can start to get some other fuels, get our bigger fuels in. The bigger fuels are better. So well, let's start in here. We'll go over our white gas. This is kind of a forgotten way. This naphtha used to be used in lantern stoves all the time, days gone by. So get back to our white gas. You have to pressurize this canister. Pressurizing it, pump it. You may have to, depending on what you're cooking, you may have to pump this more through the cooking process if your flames start to go out. So I'll pump it before we hook it up, and then I'll show you the process. Oh, quick connect, quick coupler. Latch is in place, just like that. We'll get our heat protectors. These do make a difference when you're out, when it's windy, snow conditions. This stops you from damaging anything and helps reflect the heat. So you want it to be as efficient as possible. So, and here's the windshield. I'll just roll it out now and show her here. Pretty simple. Give her a little fold up and away you go. I don't think we need this right now. Maybe we'll use it when we go to boil our pot. So, action state, you need just a little bit of fuel. So we have to preheat this stove. Okay, there we are. We got liquid coming out. Now we will light. And again, we have our flare. Now that we're getting some success here, manage the whisper light a little bit better. And hopefully the smoke dissipates. Look, see, we'll get it to flare again. I'm going to manage this till the coil gets hot. And it'll look like your standard gas stove. But it takes a minute. These are not simple. I imagine these are some of the perks that people enjoy with the propane stoves, or no stoves. In fact, it's way simpler, but these are more sustainable. There's no canisters to dispose of. This fuel can be found everywhere. It has some other uses. It can charge your devices, GPS, cell phones, inReach, any of the stuff that is cumbersome. It needs battery. You don't have to worry about battery banks. Get this one out again. Oh, we're getting gas. There we are. Look, we have success. This is our smoke screen here. I'm going to manage this a little bit. And here we go. We have a functioning gasified stove. It is very similar to your standard propane stove in its functionality. Hopefully we can see it. A little dangerous still picking it up. Hopefully the smoke's not shadowing it, but there we go. We're getting closer to our boil off. Get some wood jammed in here so that we have enough fuel to boil our couple cups of water. It's on max, and we will use the proper stove. And here's one. Get it going. See, I'll give it some pumps. See, this is the Whisper Lite. There is a simmer light model that simmers fuel, or simmers. The setting is a little more variable. Get out one of my favorite micro pot sets. It's quite efficient. This can be used to boil water, cook food. Use the small pot. Set up here. We'll get our cup of water here. We use this as our measuring vessel. And I picked some terrible fuel for this demo. It's okay. Yeah, we will get into our drop. Jim, you always have to shim this up. Put that lid on there. Let's see. I'm just going to give a little demo here of our light while we're waiting for this to boil. Just USB. This is where you'd plug any of your devices in. There you are. There's a couple settings. It's kind of great. It's I've enjoyed it. Got to make sure we're pumped up here. And these again, these are my two favorite setups. This one, you're not going to want to take remote, but I found it a great tool. If you prepare your fuels prior, if you don't, you're unsure, but most of the time when I'm on site, on a campsite or set up, I find a fuel source I can use here. On the BioLite, we can, there is a temperature gauge. It tells you how hot your stove's burning. Right now we're not at the highest. Got the fan on high. And yeah, we're already bubbling here. Show off. There we are. It's working. It's just a normal gas stove at this moment. Pressurized fuel's leaving the bottle. Fuel travels through the hoop that you can see in the center, and it vaporizes the fuel, turns it into a gas so that it functions as a normal stove. Yeah, we're still kind of struggling here, aren't we, on the BioLite? Look, see, there we are. We finally, I think we have full ignition here. I always found it heats up best once a pot's on top, truly, because this is a reburn stove. It's gathering air in through our motor, and it essentially supercharges that. And now you see that we are in it's getting closer to functioning temperature. The smoke has dissipated huge. Might get a fairly accurate test here. Oh, perfect. In there, give it a push down. Again, it has to be managed. You can't leave it. It did throttle down as I had it on high too long, and if it doesn't see the temperature raise, it will throttle down. But still a very useful tool. I find if you boil a pot of water and run the stove through with all the fuel in it, even after your water's boiled, you'll recharge this battery if it wasn't already fully charged from your last cooking event. It's got the battery gauge there, fan speed there, the one button, and that essentially tells you how hot your fire is. I'll just turn it off here. We're at full boil, and again, this is my favorite stove. This is it. This is all you need to cook multiple meals in a trip. Simply let it cool off into your pouch, and away you go. Quite a bit bigger of a stove, but its functionality I find it with the USB charging, and once you have the proper fuel on board and running, as you can see, like we're at a full nice fire here. Both great stoves. This pot and pan kit could cook a lot of meals, either your freeze dried easy boil some water, or frying pan more elaborate. I like the weight, like these weigh very little. And you're disconnected, give it a few minutes, cool off, cooler temperatures, dip it in some snow if that's where you live. This is 2+ days of meals, as long as they're quick meals. You do have to have some fuel management when you're on longer hikes, but and we're pretty close to boiling. There we are. And show a little bit of the stove. You can see the stove rocketing as it forces air through the burn chamber. And once the fuel is, we see we're smokeless at this point. It's working quite well. And the MSR, here we are. We'll pack it all up. This shows the confines of everything. There's one tool that's needed. There's some maintenance. This is the maintenance tool it comes with. I always keep it in the bag, as well as the lid for our fuel. But for this to be your fuel source, or your cooking source, the heat confined to these 2 small units. Fit in any backpack. Hang this off the side, hang this off to the side, size of a water bottle. Sometimes you need a little bit more if you're going on longer trips, but multiple choices for fuel. Works best with white gas naphtha, but you can use anything in a pinch. That is the greatest part of this MSR stove. Here's the majority of your mess kit for more remote backcountry adventuring. Can't keep it much. You can get a little more compact than this, but I don't think this is sustainable. In my opinion, this is your best bet of gear to go for remote adventuring.